Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Naufal Aulia Amanullah. I am electrical engineering student batch 2019, and today I will present to you about the next generation network or NGN policy challenges. So, since NGN is a new system, new policies are required to be implemented and maybe also adapted from the previous system. Through the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, the government has the authority to make the policy. Inside the Ministry of Communication, a Directorate General is responsible for regulating the telecommunications field and how the telecommunication company should provide telecommunication service to the user. And why does the regulations matter? Because when a company or a provider delivers service to the user or subscriber, some quality of service or QoS should be fulfilled. There are several parameters such as bandwidth and then latency and download speed and much more. What is the problem when the user receives terrible service? How to appeal when the user has a terrible service? Unfortunately, the users cannot appeal directly to the provider. To anticipate this condition, the government's role is required. The government's function is to protect the user's right and create rules for the provider. In terms of the telecommunication service, the rules are called as KPI or Key Performance Indicator. KPI is similar to the QoS. The KPI should be mentioned such as the minimum bandwidth that should be delivered to the user, for example 2 Mbps or something. Okay, this is the principles of how the information infrastructure should be developed. It is like a reference how the income of nations, how to develop and how to build telecommunication service information exchange, and then there are 4 points of them. The first one is availability and diffusion of high-speed infrastructure, and then the second one is growth and development of multimedia services, and then fair access and use of infrastructure for both customer and service providers, and then the last one is interconnection and interoperability of infrastructure and services. Okay, there are three problems that needed to be regulated for every aspect of NGN. The first one is economy and then its access and interconnection in NGN. Okay, the first one is economy. For this is the price war. For example, like a price war forces companies to keep lowering their prices to keep up with the average retail price. On the internet or network sector, a price war can reduce the quality of service or QoS, in this case like internet service. In other fields that require higher standards of safety, such as airline industries, this can be catastrophic for the safety of the consumer. The second one is access. The availability and access of FTTH or fiber to the home and then 4G and 5G are limited only in areas that are more developed and areas with a higher population density. This is the graph that happened in France in 2007. Y-axis represent the bandwidth potential or bandwidth of the network, and then the x-axis represent the total inhabitants. As you can see here, the copper line, the copper means like home telephone, it is reach 100%. It means that the home telephone can be accessed in all places in one country. Compared to the fiber to the home or FTTH, it is only 40% population in France can access the fiber network service. So there is a huge gap between the uh, home telephone accessibility and the fiber network service accessibility. So the third one is interconnection. In legacy network, for example, A using Telkomsel and then B using XL, and someday A wants to call B, the person that needs to pay for this interconnection is A because he is making the call. A have to pay a network of XL. But in NGN, this situation cannot happen again because NGN communication is based on packets. So usually for the NGN service, there is a scheme to compute or calculate an interconnection fee using long-run incremental cost models or LRIC. Okay, the solutions for the problems that I have mentioned before are in the economy sector. The first one is competition is the primary tool to develop adequate access and foster innovation, investment, and consumer benefits in communication markets. This competition can develop to adequate access and foster innovation. For example, competition to get a new user, and then competition to provide a good service. As the regulator, the government should keep the telecommunication company in healthy condition in terms of finances and regulate the healthy competition. For example, there should be a regulation that regulates the minimum price for bundle services. And then the second one is facility-based competition. Operators are encouraged to provide a good network to gain the users. And then the third one is to ensure that all customers of a service provider have contact with all other subscribers. Interconnection policies are necessary. And then the fourth one is network unbundling policy, where network users pay at cost. In these days, we pay for telecommunication service at cost. For example, we buy a certain amount of data and then we pay a specific cost only for that data. And if we need more data, we can buy again for the service. So it's like that. And then the last one is incentive to the provider that develops internet broadband networks to boost growth in broadband subscribers. So it comes from the regulator, where the government gives an incentive to the provider in form of tax incentive and others to support the provider builds an internet broadband service or network. And second one is fiberization. To solve this problem, an investment incentive in fiber connection or fiberization is needed. The government should support providers or operators to develop the fiberization, so the people in rural areas can access the fiber network service. And then uh, the government also provides access to rights of way, ducts, and poles, reducing barriers for municipal authorization and ensuring ducts investment for minimum maintenance and much more. And then the fiber to the home or FTTH access. As I have mentioned before, in France, the coverage for FTTH is only to about 40% of the population. Since the NGN requires high bandwidth capacity, it requires new technologies that has this capability, such as FTTH, 4G, or 5G. The government needs to maximize the amount of population that can access these technologies so they can also experience NGN services like that. And then Universal Service Obligation, or USO. USO means that the operator provides a minimum service which includes voice, shuttle, or telephone service to all users, regardless of their geographical location within the national territory, at an affordable price, even though there are maybe significant differences in the cost of supply. In other words, USO is like a CSR, or corporate social responsibility. The company should provide several funds which provide to the society or user with a certain condition. For example, in America, there is a discount for internet access for schools and libraries. School and libraries are non-profit organizations, which supporting them is essential. And then U.S. Canada and Australia provide price subsidies for internet access in the rural area. USO provides a minimum telecommunication set of services to all users in certain countries with a cost-efficient approach. And then USO and Switzerland uh, provides the maximum price 50 euro at remote areas or rural areas. And then in Indonesia, for example, there is a Bakti that for conducting telecommunication services in the rural area. So that's all from me, and thank you and goodbye.